little bit different. We're going to tackle the issue of addiction, how addiction affects our families, how it affects our communities, how it affects law enforcement, and we'll even talk about how to get on that so-called road to recovery. It's a special edition of the KPVI News 6 Week in Review.
You're watching KPVI News 6 Week in Review with Todd Blackington, meteorologist Doug Iverson, and Matt Gittins with sports. KPVI News 6, your news source for East Idaho.
Good evening, and thanks for watching the KPVI News 6 Week in Review. I'm Todd Blackington. We're coming to you from the Arcata Recovery Center in Idaho Falls, and we're doing that because this whole half hour we're going to be talking about addiction and the toll that that can take on our families and communities. Now, the most recent statistics from the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare indicate that between 4 to 6% of the population in eastern Idaho is involved in heavy drinking or illicit drug use within the past 30 days. That may not sound like a lot, but when you take into effect the friends, the family, the law enforcement, the courts, attorneys, judges, just about everybody is affected by this issue. Now, statistics are one thing, but of course the personal toll addiction can take is something that is quite different, and the toll it can take on families and friends is really difficult to overstate. So we want to start tonight with a personal story of addiction, and the person we've turned to for that is David Pinniger. He runs the Arcadia Recovery Center here in Idaho Falls. I want to let everyone know that this is going to be a frank and open discussion about addiction, so parents, you want to be warned about that. Also, just by the way of disclosure, I guess, Dave and I have an extensive history together. We've known each other since junior high. I passed driver's ed in large part because of Dave Pinniger. We also worked together after high school and share a lot of the same friends. And Dave, we even share some of the friends of ours who have passed away as a result of addiction. So we appreciate you talking to us about this. Now, I want to start out by saying that knowing your family and the stereotype that some people might think about addicts, I would say you don't fit that. If there isn't any stereotype, maybe we need to break that down. But you come from a loving family. They're God-fearing, law-abiding people, and you had most of your needs met there as you were growing up. So how did addiction enter your life?
You know, Todd, it happened in junior high when I started to feel not like I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't fit in. I had a lot of friends, but on the inside, I was afraid. I felt different than, less than, not as good as a lot of the people that we hung out with, a lot of the friends we hung out with. In fact, the community we lived in, there was you know, some pretty affluent people.
Sure.
And we weren't as fortunate. We had moved into my grandparents' house as a result of financial struggles, and so we move into this area with a lot of money, kids, you know, driving nice cars, wearing nice clothes, and I immediately was struggling to try to find a place to fit in.
So is that an experimental state then, junior high?
Yeah, the first time I ever drank and used tobacco was in junior high.
When did it get to the point, because I know that you had struggles in high school as well, when did it get to a point where addiction was kind of, you know, running your life and sort of top of mind in the things that you were trying to do?
Well, I would say the experimental phase of things went through junior high, freshman year, but sophomore year is really when it was a daily must-have, must-do, just to get along, just to get by, just to feel like I was a part of something.
Still tobacco and alcohol at that point, or had it gotten heavier?
Heavier. You know, at that point in time, in high school, there was a lot of marijuana, LSD, mushrooms, lots of drinking. You know, some of the fraternities, high school fraternities that you might remember, that was what we did.
What kinds of things were you doing that maybe your family didn't know about? And I guess I ask this just so we can try to let parents know, you know, this is real and these are the things that your kids could be involved in if they've fallen into this trap.
Well, it was hard because, you know, Mom and Dad didn't obviously accept any of that as part of their beliefs. It was absolutely wrong to use drugs, to participate in those types of activities. So it was constant lying, covering up, sneaking, just disrespecting what they said. I would just totally go against what they wanted for me.
What about like the scene at the parties or the gatherings, or was there, I think that shoplifting can come, you know, as addiction has affected my family, shoplifting was an issue also in my family. So like what kind of other behavior came along with the addiction?
Lots of theft, just disrespect for other people's property, you know, not only vehicles, homes, stores. It was a big part of the addiction.
How did your parents react to that? Because I know, and you had to remind me of this actually, but you weren't there senior year. You had left our high school.
Right. Well, sophomore year as well, I can remember getting stoned before seminary and walking in. Jack Christensen said, "Your dad just called." I called my dad, and he flipped on me. He was there in 5 minutes, and I never went back my sophomore year. They sent me to live with my aunt and uncle in Seattle, Washington. So I finished my sophomore year there.
Yeah. How did all of that work? I mean, was that, I imagine your parents were trying to remove you from the environment so that you could, you know, make some better choices. Did that work?
That was their solution, and yes, for that period of time, it did work.
And then?
Senior year, I came back. Junior year, fell right back into it, doing the same things, creating chaos. And senior year, my parents sent me to Oregon, Florence, Oregon, to live with my aunt and uncle there, and that did nothing.
Let's flash forward a little bit then, because there was a time also when we were working together in your early 20s where it seemed like you had resolved a lot of these issues and headed off life in a direction where, you know, everybody might hope.
Yeah. When I turned 22, I just, you know, I'd been getting in trouble with the law. I'd had DUI. I was struggling and was looking for a change. And so when I was 22, I ended up, you know, serving a mission for my church in Brazil. And, you know, addiction wasn't a part of my life for those 2 years.
And then, but you came home, you got married, and it reared its head again.
Exactly.
What was the pit for you? I mean, it seems like a lot of people, at least in experiences that I've heard, you know, they have that rock bottom. What was that for you?
Rock bottom was after coming home, getting involved in prescription drugs because it was easier for me to justify, being easier to hide. It took me 6 more years of lying and deceiving and thinking that having kids would fix the issue. You know, I'm 3 kids into this deal now, and still my addiction is killing me. And rock bottom was my last overdose when my wife and children said, "We will not tolerate this behavior any longer, and if you don't choose to get some help," because I'd always tried to fix it with my solution.
Right.
Oh, I can fix it. I can move. I
Is
can
that
change jobs.
common
Oh,
among
yeah.
addicts? Yeah.
Yeah. We always have the answers. We know what's best for us. Problem is, our best thinking gets us right to where we are.
Right.
So it's a slippery slope, and it is ugly.
Well, we certainly don't want to end the conversation with you at rock bottom. We want to give some people hope, but we're going to get to that a little bit later in the program. We'll talk with Dave about his recovery, what led him to start this facility in Idaho Falls a little bit later. After the break, though, we're going to talk with Bonneville County Sheriff Paul Wild to talk about the role addiction plays in his kind of work. And then a little bit later, we'll also be talking to a clinician about what people can do to face addiction and overcome it. We'll be right back.